Hello everyone. Sometimes you have to do something out of nothing but pure stubbornness. Nothing but stubbornness and the desire to try something new just to save $10. And of course, there's the fact that I tried already and failed. But I will not fear. Fear is the mind killer. If at first you don't succeed, try again. So this week, I decided to do just that. I could have just bought the thing I need, but instead I decided to spend the time and make something myself for no real good reason. And if you want, you get to watch. It might not even work, and for some of you, it might be the most cringe content I've put on YouTube. But I guess I'll see from your reaction. You see, what's going on here is that I have these old EPROMs that not only require over 20 volts to program, they're also extremely hard to erase if you don't have the right equipment. Luckily, I managed to make a pretty good programmer on a breadboard that doesn't mind supplying the higher voltages for programming, and I even made it into an Uno-style programmer shield that you can buy for just $9, but without a dedicated UV eraser, they're one-time use only. And when I tried putting the chips under UV light, trying to erase them, absolutely nothing happened. And after 6 hours of exposure, only a few bits had flipped, simply because the lamps I used had the wrong wavelength of UV radiation. So I ordered a socket, a ballast, and a UV-C bulb with the correct wavelength of 253.7 nanometers that just got here. But as you can see, only 2 of those 3 things actually arrived, so I actually still don't have a UV-C light source I can use. The good thing is I have a 3D printer in my garage, but sadly I wasn't able to find a 3D model for the E17 socket, and designing one from scratch isn't really what I had planned. But the good thing about standards is sometimes they scale pretty reasonably, and I was able to find an E26 socket model, and I'm willing to bet it'll scale well enough to hold my UV bulb. The correct scaling factor would be around 66%, but I decided to have a little bit of extra room in the case the thread didn't scale well. It does seem a little bit loose, but it'll do well enough for now. The thing about UV light at this wavelength is that it's great for purifying water, killing bacteria, and disinfecting surfaces. It will also make you completely blind if you stare at it too long, and it's best to assume even a little bit can cause permanent eye damage. And the worst thing, you won't even know it's happening until it's too late and your eyes are already damaged. Again, never look at a bulb like this, not even a little bit. Also, these bulbs contain mercury, so be careful not to break them, and if you do, make sure you don't ingest or inhale anything and dispose of them according to local regulations. So even if it is a little bit tempting to try hooking the lamp up to test if it even works, I am not going to, and you shouldn't either. There's a very good reason the commercial EPROM erasers come in a box, so I'll go right ahead and try to slap one together. While looking at an uncovered UV bulb is pretty dangerous, the only real chance of pain from watching this video comes from the cringe value of my woodworking skills. Armed with no skill, a rusty saw, and the general principle that a box usually has somewhere around 6 sides, I start attacking a defenseless pine plank. Since the plank somehow seems to win the battle, I quickly escalate the conflict with a jigsaw, which seems to turn the tide. Again, I am absolutely serious. Do not take anything you see me do here as advice on how to handle power tools or woodworking in general. I have no idea what I'm doing. After ending up with some slabs of wood, roughly the right size, plus minus a few centimeters, I look for something to put it all together, drill some pilot holes, and try to get things to stick. Since the whole point of the box is to keep all eyes away from the UV light inside, I decided to at least put a micro switch on the lid, so it's at least guaranteed to turn off if Pandora's box here is opened by mistake. I couldn't find any perfect screws, but I went ahead with a pair that'll get in there with a bit of excessive force. Now, before I attach the side of the box with the switch, I think it might also be a good place to attach the rest of the electronics. So let's have a look at that back in the office. The UV bulb should be reasonably close to the chips, but I think I'll attach it so it's also pretty easy to slide a few of them underneath it, and it should be able to do a few at a time. I won't go into too much detail about how the ballast and bulb actually works, but the bulb wouldn't work without the ballast. As far as I know, the ballast has an inverter that generates AC at the tens of kilohertz frequency range to ionize some mercury gas, which is ignited with an initial high voltage spark. The reason we have to use mercury at all is because when mercury gas is excited by the electrical discharge, it just happens to emit photons at a wavelength of around 254 nanometers when they return to their lower energy states. When the European Union bans mercury lamps completely sometime in 2025, I guess we have to switch to UV-C LEDs. Sadly though, at this wavelength they're pretty expensive and hard to come by, even if they have dropped by an order of magnitude over the last decade. I could be wrong about any part of that, but let's see if it works at all. Feel free to correct me in the comments. Besides the ballast and the lamp, we just need to throw about 12 volts at it, and it should work. So all we have to do is wire the black and red to the outside of the box, and one of them through the switch. To do that, I just solder the red wire to the switch and find a spare red wire to go to the outside. I was planning to put a barrel plug on the outside, but I've actually changed my mind about that. More on that in a minute. Now that the switch is firmly soldered in, we just need a quick trip back to the garage to make some pilot holes for the socket and a hole for the power wires. Since I couldn't find a good barrel plug or a 12-volt wall wart for that matter, I decided to enter the modern world of USB-C power delivery instead. Since I already have these decoys, that'll kindly ask a USB-C power adapter to supply the closest thing to 12 volts it supports. With the socket firmly screwed down and a hole that should let some power in from the outside world, we just need to solder in the USB-C board and we should have a working circuit. Since I'm just going to jam the circuit into the wood, I cover it with some Kapton tape that should isolate it sufficiently. I guess it's time to give it a test. Notice the bulb is facing away from me, so I don't look at it directly and I don't have any reflective surfaces around, but only see it through a monitor just like you and not even through my camera seeker. So let's plug it in, and if we press the button, we see nothing. Oh wait, it's not plugged into the wall. One more time. It's not much, but I see a tiny red glow there. Let's try with the lights off and see if the camera sensor can pick up something. Yay! There we go. Now, of course, I don't have the tools to do a spectroscopy to check the wavelength, but it certainly looks like it's lighting up. Now, all we need is an EPROM to erase, and I guess no better candidate than the ones we failed to erase previously. First though, I'll set the jumpers on my programmer shield for 24-pin ROMs and check that it's not actually blank already. Software-wise, all I do is send over code via serial to jump to the check blank subroutine. So nothing complicated there either. But first, I'll check the routine works by testing a ROM that's actually blank, and then move on to one that we failed to erase before. That looks great. It's cycling through the whole ROM quite a few times, since it keeps going until it rolls over all 16 address bits, even though the 2732 only has 12, since the routine doesn't know about that. So the control group here is completely blank. If we swap that for the one we want to erase, we should see it not blank at all. And yes, the first byte happens to actually be blank after our previous efforts, but the blank check already fails at address 1. So let's put that in our new eraser. I'm thinking about putting a menu on the programmer OLED screen so you can run common routines without using the computer at all. That's definitely on the to-do list. But for now, sending commands from the computer works fine. I haven't put hinges on the lid yet, which means I can still take my phone and do this. Let's leave it to cook for 10 minutes and see if that does anything. Even with the hinges on the lid, it would still be too easy to turn on the lamp by accident, so I will also put in a separator to cover the lamp. But right now, I'm too excited to see if it worked to do anything but check if it's blank. It's verifying, and completely blank. It worked. Let's check again to be absolutely sure. Yes, perfect. I guess this means I successfully made a little tanning bed for EPROMs that'll give them that nice little 254 nanometer sunburn they've been waiting for. I don't know why I'm so excited, since I could have just bought an eraser with a nice little timer and drawer, link in the description, and the time I put in certainly doesn't make up for the 10 to 15 bucks I saved. But still, it feels pretty good I made something that works, even if I should have just bought it. I also have 2 more of these EPROMs that should have some data, so I'll quickly make sure I have the right ones by blank checking them with the programmer and giving them a sun bath together. The first one fails the blank check immediately, so it certainly has something on it. And the second one makes it to page 4 before it fails, but that still means it needs a wipe. Since the angle of light might differ a bit inside the eraser, and I don't know exactly how much power it's putting out, it's hard to say exactly how long to leave them in there, but since 10 minutes was good enough for the first one, that's probably a reasonable starting point. And if I leave them in there too long, they might get damaged too. After 10 minutes, it looks like the first one still fails the blank check at address 1, so I guess it needs to cook a little bit longer. The second one, however, is now completely blank. Let's give the other one another 10 minutes. If you'd like to play with ROMs like these too, you can get them on my web shop I've linked in the description, where you can also buy the $9 Relatively Universal ROM Programmer Kit and the kit for the 65 Uno I've used it with in this video. It'll also work with the normal Uno, of course. I won't be selling EPROM erasers or mercury bulbs from my store, since I don't feel like ordering and importing lots of mercury, but I've affiliate linked to where you can get them in the description as well. If you've already bought a kit or parts from my shop, or have decided to become a member of the channel, I'd like to take this opportunity to say thank you so much for supporting my YouTube adventure. It means a lot. Either way, thanks for watching.